Good morning, guys. We are back on the water. Excited to take you along. The place that we were planning to fish today, the ramp was closed. They were repaving the parking lot, and so we couldn't get in there this morning. So we're going to do our best to make the best of this situation and fish this body of water. And I'm not quite sure. I had a plan on the other one. We had to make, again, a last-minute change. I got to that parking lot and it was closed. So we'll see what we can figure out. Come on, let's get to it. Hey guys, first fish of the day. Hopefully we'll get it in here. Seems like a decent one on a buzzbait. Just winding it through these shady areas. Oh, that's a decent fish. All right. We'll take that first thing in the morning. We'll take that anytime. Look at that. Look at that beauty. All right. Okay. Wow, beautiful. Well, I'm going to put this on the scale real quickly, and then we'll let her go. All right, guys, 3.19. Let's put her back. Let her get bigger. I don't know if that pattern will keep playing out, but it's worth a shot. We're gonna put a new trailer on and wind this around some more. Yeah, it was a pretty subtle bite. It didn't feel like a bass, and it's not a bass. It's a toothy critter. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. So one of the reasons we're winding this around this area is this is sort of I don't know, they've got these sort of little basins. It goes from the main lake into little basins, and there's little cut throughs to get into them. And this one is about that 10 to 12 feet, but there's grass that's growing up in it, so we're about 4 feet of water or so. So a good distance where if the fish are down in that grass or just in the tops of the grass, they don't have to come too far to get something on the surface. So winding a buzzbait around seems like a pretty good option, and we've got a couple doing it. Feels like a smallish fish. We'll see. Yep. But it's a bass. It's a bass. All right, guys, picking up another one. Oh my, guys. We've got a mag crappie. Look at this thing on the net head. Look at the size of that thing. Wow. Oh. Anyway, we could just completely lose our minds over that, or not so much. We got another baby. I have no words, which is rare, considering most people would say I talk too much. Hopefully we caught that on video. Flying fish there. Okay, alright. Done messed up, Aaron. Look at that. Good as new, pal. Good as new. Done messed up. Seem to have found a small spool of them. And again, babies. But they are in probably about 30 to 40 feet of water. We're at 31 and a half right here, but it drops right off. So I guess it's close to 40 feet of water where these school of fish are, which is pretty deep. Wondering if you could convey a message to these fish. I want the big ones, not the little ones, the big ones. That would be helpful if you could do that for me. Another baby. Look at that Mondo. Mondo. Okay, so I know we just had the talk about telling them that I want bigger ones, you know, no babies, big ones. Let's get with the program. I don't know if I have to say this, but I'm disappointed in you. I expect greatness out of you. This was a disappointment. Catching fish. Yep, here's another giant. Another giant. I'm telling you what, this conversation, I don't know what we need to do to make it sink in. No more babies. Big ones. They can fit in the palm of my hand. They're the wrong size. This is the key right here. Oh yeah, this one actually might be a better one. I need those deep lunges and squats. Get them up here in this boat. Like I can help. Something like that. It's a giant. It's a giant. He always like leans way out. You know, it's a giant. Hope they get my good side. Woo! Right. That actually is a nice fish, though. Look at that. Whew. I'm glad we had this talk. I am glad we had this talk. All right, let's see if we can get this beautiful girl free. Damn. That is on the Ned head. This teeny little Ned head right here, which is kind of sweet. And as you saw, you know, I don't know if I'll show all of them in the video, but either way, we were catching babies. I mean, teeny little fish, babies. We catch one like this and back down to this, and just, we must have pulled, I don't know, at least 6 or 8 of them out of this exact spot. I haven't moved at all. I've got the spot lock on. We haven't moved at all. And you know, you probably have to wonder, why in the world would you sit on this spot and and keep catching small one after small one. Well, that's just the thing. You never know. If you do have a school of them, and we clearly had a school of them going, sometimes they all group up together, and even, you know, this was a largemouth, and we had smallmouth on this spot, but they will, if it's good, I got a little fray there, but if it's a good spot, all the fish will sometimes group up. So it does pay to make multiple casts, even if you're thinking, boy, I'm not sure that these are the right ones. Throw back in there a few times, and maybe even we'll swap baits. But I'm going to toss right back in there, see if we can find another one or two. But just, we were fishing the exact same thing, the exact same way. So we'll keep after it. The truth is, I think you pulled through for me. We had that motivational talk. Took a few. We got it together. Thank you. What we just did here is we swapped baits. Again, I don't know if it'll pan out for us or not, but it's definitely worth a shot before you move off a spot. Oh, that was a bite. So, didn't get it, but that was a bite. So, and I'm guessing that one was a small one based on the reaction. Kind of pulled and dropped it. So did that one. But that being said, we weren't getting any more bites on the Ned head, and yet here we are with a different bait. At least getting bites. It doesn't mean we'll catch a big one or anything. But we just went to the Nico rig. It's basically almost a wacky rigged Senko with a weight, a nail weight. This one's a little heavier because I'm in such deep water. I put a little heavier weight just with an O-ring and rig that wacky. I usually go a little off center when I'm doing this. It seems to give it just a little more action, and because the weight's all the way on one side, I move the O-ring closer towards it. So it still, when you jump it still has some pretty good bounce and movement out of it. So we'll see if we'll catch any more, but we did get some bites. So instantly it triggered bites that we weren't getting from before. So I would say success. Just when we're about to give up. Man, I'm sure glad we didn't miss that one. Wow. Hold to your knickers. Let me tell you, we could have just lost that one. We had left a moment sooner. Let's get back in there. In front of your very eyes, we're going to rig up a Nico rig. So, we already got our hook. Just a pretty simple hook right there. And we got our components. We got the nail weight. And this is a bigger one. You see the ball end? I don't always put that on. Sometimes I'll just use basically, you know, just that part, stuff it all the way in so there's no weight at the end. But we're in deeper water, in that 25 to about 40 feet of water. So I want it to fall a little faster and it's windy, so I don't really have all day to let it fall and put a big bow in my line. And then I got the little O-ring, and obviously you can use the O-ring tool. I do have one, but since he left my O-ring and I don't really feel like pulling out the tool and all of that good stuff, I'm just gonna do this. So if you want a cheap way to put an O-ring on, this is about as cheap as it comes. You already got your needle nose pliers to get the hooks out of the fish's mouth. And then in this case, I usually put it on about that far. I mean, it's not halfway, but I'm putting my nail weight in on this end, and this is the tricky part. I rarely get this perfectly straight, but the goal is to get this in here nice and straight right down the center of the bait. But I do the best I can, and you should too. Unless you don't want to. You know, maybe you don't want to catch fish. That's fine. You're watching the right video. And then we're going to just slip this back on. Right. That wind is making things difficult on us. We're just going to tuck this, and I usually grab a little bit, and actually this this is the proper way. There's the way that the worm goes. I don't know if you can see that or not, but right here at the tip of the worm, the very tip, you can actually see that it bends this way a little, and this side is more straight. So I want it to fall with the maximum bounce in it. So I'm putting that curly tail sort of slight, I mean it's slight, curly tail up. So if you're looking for the right way to do it, in my opinion, that's the right way. You can disagree with me. Send hate mail and all that good stuff, whatever you do when you disagree with someone nowadays. We're going to try something radically different. I don't know that it's going to work out any better for us, but the wind is pounding us pretty good here in the waves. So we're going to head up the far end of the lake, and there's some weeds and grass and thick cover, and we're going to probably try frogging and, you know, flipping that and just see what happens. Probably, you know, not going to be way better than out here, and if it was a little calmer, I'd stay out here, and maybe I'll regret my decision anyway. But we're going to try something a little bit different, just to mix it up and get out of the wind for just a little bit here, and let's keep working. Well, that happened faster than I thought it would. Here we are, just starting to flip down through this cover. Got our half-ounce tungsten weight, our bobber stops, and our creature bait. Beautiful fish. All right, I'm gonna just put a scale on that real quickly. I'd say it's like 2.5, but we'll see. Be right back with you. All right, guys, put this one back. Now, breaking down a little bit of where that fish was, there's an island, there's like a weed point right here, and we're not super far away from deeper water in this area, what's considered deep water. It's all relative. Not everything in the world's relative. Let's put that disclaimer in there, but in this case, it's a bit relative. These fish probably never leave this, you know, basin, and so, you know, to have the channels right out here in front, and then we've got a weed clump, and there was a thick spot right in it, and we pitched in there, and he started swimming back deeper into the weeds. So again, something to pay attention to. I'm probably going to put a little more emphasis on weed points than on weed coves, but we'll still pitch to some of the coves, some of the best ones, and see if you know, it had more to do with the thickness of the grass, or if it really was because it was a weed point. All right, picked up one more on the frog. Hey, can you see a fish? Oh yeah. Oh, look. Look at that. Nice. All right. That is the Copper's frog right there. And that was, I don't know if you can see it or not. We'll maybe angle this a little bit. Right back here, there's kind of like a little deeper spot, little pocket full of just goop and grass, and that fish was right there. It hit it once and missed it, and then got it the second time. He's an important part of the topic each night. About 1/3 of the time, people lie in your life suggests the habits carry over surveys. Then there's that odd habit we sometimes have of lying to ourselves. There's an ability to yourself to say you were a screw up as a student 6 ago. Lying to oneself may explain why some people say they are above average. How big is this problem? More than 40% of one company say you're in the top 5%. More than 90% of college professors say people above average. 1/4 of high school seniors say they're in the top 5%. If you believe yourself, right now it's a survey. Another factor based on online surveys is a strong desire to get information and escape from it. There is some every night. As part of the first like they ran lots of. You want to tell your man, using your one last ability to understand the research is originally done, a correlation between technique. Wow, guys. Wow. We just got a stud. Look at that, and pinned perfectly. Look at this. Look at that, right in the roof of the mouth. That is a beauty. It's better than I thought. Now, something to note about that fish, and this happens quite a bit with big fish. It just took that bait in and sat there. It wasn't going anywhere. It just scooped, sucked it in and didn't move at all, which is quite common with really good fish. They're not sharing the space with another fish, so they've got no reason to run off with it. Just something to pay attention to. It just felt like, you know, sort of resistance, and but it didn't run off in any way at all. So just something to pay attention to. All right, let's catch another one. There we go. We're going to put this one back. It is probably that time when we got to wrap it up for the day. I will try to do an update for you back in the garage. It'll probably be, it might be tonight, but it also might be tomorrow sometime. But I'll try to get that update to you guys, and then can't wait to take you on the water. All right, guys, stay with it, stay after it, stay learning, and I'll see you soon. Hey there, guys. Andrew with A-Team Adventures in the boat in the garage here, giving you a quick recap of fishing the other day. Right from the beginning, the day kind of started off on, I don't know if you could say the wrong foot, but you make a plan and then it doesn't happen. And I'm a planner. Some of you are like, it doesn't matter at all, and that's really good in a situation like this. But for someone who's a real big planner, you kind of need to then just make the very next best plan. And so I tried to do that. I got to the lake where I was hoping to fish, and the boat ramp was shut down. They were repaving the parking lot, and everything was roped off, so you couldn't get in. So I quickly sat down on my phone and started pulling up Google Earth and looking for a lake that I could fish. Found one, and so we were out there quite a bit later than I had hoped to be fishing. Which probably hurt our morning bite a little bit. In the summertime, it is so key to be on that early morning or that late evening bite. If you can still catch them all day, and that's what we're going to do in this video. But as you've seen, I guess now you've already seen it. But it was slower. So right off the bat, we went to a place that was kind of like a big shallow grass flat with grass that was growing up. It was probably, I don't know, anywhere from that probably 8 to 15 feet of water. But when the grass was growing up, it was just a few feet till the surface. So started throwing a buzzbait, and almost, I mean, not immediately, but pretty quickly, we caught one, and it just attacked this buzzbait, and that's a Jacob Wheeler finesse buzzbait. I just ordered the larger ones. They're back in stock, and so I've now got the bigger one, so I'll probably tie one of those on, but I had the finesse one tied on, and it was pretty calm in the beginning, so it seemed to work really good. But I mean, it just attacked at a decent fish. So we got that one in the boat, and we're started on the right foot. That we caught a pickerel, and that was it in that area. I'm fairly certain the sun was starting to hit it really hard. I'm fairly certain if we had gotten in there an hour earlier, like I had intended, or if I had planned on going to this one from the beginning, we would have had a much better buzzbait bite and much longer. So just something to pay attention to. It kind of fizzled out as the day progressed, but we did get a good fish, and I'm pretty sure if we had been there earlier, that would have been a deal a little bit longer. Then we fished around for, quite a while. We found some pretty skinny water and some weeds we fished. We found some deeper humps, but these were all back in an area, I'm sure there's fish in there still, but this was back in an area that's more of a spawning area. It's not the main lake. It's not a main lake point. And we fished around there for quite some time. We fished a worm, we fished a nedhead, we fished all kinds of stuff. We fished back, we fished back in some grass with a frog, and we did get a real good blow up on a frog, now that I'm thinking about it, but we didn't get that fish in the boat. And then we moved to a few rocky points in there. Humps, I guess, rocky humps. I had found I've fished this lake before, and I had found them before and just marked them on my graph, you know, a waypoint. And so figured for something like this, it might be good. And so we started fishing the Ned Head. And the water, it was fairly deep for one thing. And when I say fairly deep, in that probably 20 plus feet of water. And so and then it was getting windy. And back in this area, it wasn't too windy yet, but I was fishing this is a Ned Head. It's a Ned bait with a Z-Man Elastec plastic. It's stretchy. Just a tip, don't mix this with any other plastic. The plastic has to stay with Elastec. And even in your rod locker, if another worm bumps up against it, it eats it. It's bizarre. They don't play well together. Let's just say that. So you want to keep these Elastec plastics all to themselves. But anyway, I was fishing. This is the Flanders Ned Head. And I typically fish a very lightweight, but I was, of course, on Tackle Warehouse and just poking around. And they had these are very heavy. This is a 5/16 ounce Ned Head. It's tungsten, which I really like having a tungsten Ned Head. Honestly, if I could have all my bottom contact baits with tungsten, I would. But they don't really make all the ones that I want yet with tungsten. And they're more money. But boy, you can feel so much more. It's incredible. But I was fishing this and I caught a giant crappie. The crappie was whatever it was. I would think it was like a pound, 1.56, so a little over 1.5 pounds, which for a crappie up here in Maine, that's a giant crappie. So that's all we managed to do there. Then we went out to the main lake and we started fishing points and just working our way back from sort of the spawning area, fishing points and moving back and moving back and moving back. And I was fishing a crankbait a lot. It was very windy, so I thought it's clear water, which sometimes in really crystal clear water, and this is clear, you could see, I don't know, probably 15 to 20 feet of visibility, which sometimes in that clear of water, the crankbait just doesn't seem to do it. It's like they can see it coming from too far away. And it's obvious it's not real, so that it tends to just push them off. But when they can feel it, hear it, and then don't get a super good look at it, sometimes that works better. So anyway, and I tried everything from kind of slow grinding to, burning it on a 8.1 to 5, 8.5 to 1, 8.5 to 1 reel. Burning that crankbait. And we tried varying depths, everything from about that 15 to 25 with a crankbait, and could not get a bite. We were bumping and banging and crashing and everything that you should be doing, and could not make it happen. So then again, I picked up the Ned Head. It was getting a little windy at that point, and again, that's where that heavier Ned Head really was helpful. And we got into a little school of baby ones, as you saw, and then we had to have that talk, that heart-to-heart, that we're trying to catch big ones here, and it took a while, but we did manage to catch one good one. Thanks, guys. I know you're pulling for me, but anyway, the future you was pulling for me then. Figure that out. Anyway. And when we did the time travel, we didn't buy any lottery tickets, so we abided by all the time travel rules. But anyway, that did produce a big one, or a good one, and the bite was slow. But we got into a school of small ones, and it does pay off to stay on a small school for a little while, just to determine, are these all small fish, or is there a big fish in here somewhere? And sometimes once you get the small ones to bite, the big ones bite too. And it also, that being said, poke around just a little bit. If you did get a couple small ones, start making a few fan casts out. Sometimes the big ones are on the outskirts, or the little ones are up and the big ones are down, closer to the bottom. So poke around a little bit. It does usually pay to poke around. Not every time. I'm not going to promise you that, hey, if you keep poking around, Andrew says, it'll always pay off on a giant fish. Nope, it won't, but it'll pay off enough that you'll be really glad you did it. And if you found those fish, it just seems wise, and if there's a reason they're there, and there's some reason they're there, whether that's bait or structure or whatever it is, water, temperature, I'm not sure, light penetration, whatever it is going on, there's a reason they're there, and if the little ones like it, probably the big ones do too. And so just poke around a little bit longer. So we did manage to catch a decent one off of that, but the bite was slow. It's a hot summer day. We missed that early, morning bite, or maybe we caught one in that early morning bite with the buzzbait. But then we kind of, that was over. We were fishing hot summer day in the middle of the day, and it was really slow. Then we started throwing a Nico rig, and I have really grown to like the Nico rig. I have a hard time slowing down to like ultra finesse and weightless worm and so on, especially if I'm in deeper water, and then especially if we're in heavy wind, and that wind was really picking up. So I was fishing a Nico rig with a fairly heavy weight in it. It's more than just a nail weight. It is a nail weight. The nail probably comes up about an inch into the bait, but this actually has as well, a head sticking out, which I don't always do in really shallow cover or when it's not windy at all. But when it's windy and you want that bait to get down and it's really deep, so your line's pulling the bait up, the more line you have out, and again, we were in that 20 to 30 feet of water there, and boy, that bait's just going to want to keep coming up, and the wind's going to pull your line and put a bow in it if you're not careful and pull it up. So it really, I think it pays to have a little heavier weight. And then sometimes, I don't know, but I think that having that weight on the bottom, just like anything, it's dragging and bumping on the rocks, and it's creating noise. I mean, you can definitely hear something like that clicking and banging. And I don't know if it really imitates anything, but I do know that fish are curious. I do some scuba diving. I've never done it in fresh water, but I've done it a lot in salt water. And the fish get curious. If you're out there, tapping on something, they're curious. They tend to start, circling around and just paying attention to what you're doing. And I think it's just the noise. If something piques their curiosity, I highly doubt that it sounds like anything. I mean, maybe it does, but I doubt it. And so I'm guessing they know it's not a fish per se, but they're curious. So it brings in curiosity, I think, having a little extra noise sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And then, and we had plenty of other noise, waves. I mean, the waves were really pounding, and there was other noise. So just something, it's very natural bait. So something to pique their curiosity. And then when it comes in, it's just bouncing and jiggling just a little bit. And it looks pretty natural in the water. So I think that's what, gets you the bites, is how natural it looks. But the sound maybe draws them in from a little further. But we did get some bites on this. They stole my worm. We put on another one together. So you saw exactly how to rig that up. And then it was getting windy enough, and it wasn't, if it was producing a bunch of really good quality fish, would I stick it out? Absolutely. I'd fight the wind. But it just wasn't really producing what I was looking for. So I thought, well, I know where some pads are. Let's go up in the shallow water and start flipping and frogging. And I figured I just have to slow down. Again, it's hot. It's the lake seemed to be pretty pressured, so I figured I'd slow way down and just start by flipping cover. And I enjoy it anyway. I enjoy flipping cover, but if I could just move a million miles an hour and catch a bunch of fish, I'd prefer that. But anyway, so we just started slowing down, and right off the bat, before I was almost even ready, we caught one fish, a decent fish, and boy, it is amazing. It's baffling in the summer how slow and few the bites can be, but once you hook one, hang on. I mean, these fish are active. Their metabolism's up, and they are active. So they have to be feeding at some point, but probably midday isn't the best time. But it does, the one thing it does do is it congregates those fish. So again, if you've got miles and miles and miles of pads, maybe it doesn't really help you too much. But at times when there aren't miles and miles of pads, It does help you in some way, because those fish aren't just going to be roaming around anywhere. More than likely, they're going to be, you know, under cover, under shade. It helps them hunt better, and it's a little cooler. It's more comfortable. So we started flipping lily pads and grass, and we caught one right off, and I remember covering it in the video, I think, but it was on a weed point. And I don't know, it didn't seem, we kept trying things. We'd point, we'd, you know, pocket, we'd point, we'd pocket, where multiple weeds come together. And I can't say that I noticed a really strong, you know, okay, that's where they were. We caught some back in pockets. We caught some, or had bites of some, you know, on pockets. So we caught some out on points. I was fishing more the edge, maybe from the edge of the weed line, maybe 15 feet back in, and I was kind of, you know, working my way through it. I didn't go, there was probably, you know, 50 yards of weeds, you know, all the way back, and I didn't go all the way back to the skinniest water. I was targeting closest to deep water and sort of where the channel was. Just a percentage game. I knew I didn't have all day in there, so I just figured I'd hit the best places first. So we caught some, we missed quite a few. And there were, some of those might have been pickerel. Pickerel tend to do that, or small fish. But we did catch enough, and we caught a really good one at the end. And for that lake and for how pressured it was a really good one. It was over 4 pounds. Just a beautiful, healthy fish, and tickled to catch it, tickled to let it go. So that helped us out a lot. That was a good deal. And I was going back and forth between, you know, these were the, you know, Rage crawfish. They're not the lobster size. They're, you know, the full size, but not the lobster. And I was just going back and forth between kind of the green pumpkin red flake, and then this is, you know, just I'm trying to think if I don't think I've got a package exactly what it is, but it's like, it's got a little bit of green pumpkin on red side and kind of a translucent red with, you know, blue flake on it. I can't remember what it was. And the reason I bought it was because they were out of what I really wanted. They didn't have them, they were out of stock. And so I figured, you know, this actually looks a little bit interesting. It's fairly natural looking, and, you know, just sort of a muted kind of colors, especially on this side. And so I figured, well, I'll give it a shot. And I tried both, and neither one seemed to be working better than the other. We caught fish on both of them. And so that's what we were flipping there. And when they got it, again, we had a few that, you know, bit off tails and nipped at it, and we missed them. But I would guess that they were small fish, because the fish we caught with any size to them, I mean, they had it, and they had it good, and they were active. So I don't think there was a problem with the bait. And then we did catch one decent one on a frog, which was kind of cool. When I say decent, I think it was a little over 2.5, but one decent one on a frog really helped us out. And it's just fun to catch them on a frog. It's not always the deal, but when you can get one to eat them, it's a lot of fun. So that was the day. We probably, takeaways, again, if we could have been there earlier, which it didn't happen. I had planned to be there earlier, but it didn't happen. But that would be important. And then feel, you know, try different things. You know, don't get so locked down to one thing. Like, I'm going to fish points and the main lake points all the time, or I'm going to stay all the way in the shallowest, you know, grass flats and run a buzzbait, or I'm going to, you know, don't get too locked down. Try things. Let the fish tell you what to do. We tried many different baits before we came down to these, you know, these 4. Well, we settled on 5, but, you know, pretty much 4, because the buzzbait didn't pan out for too long. But we settled really on these 4, and the frog we only used a little bit because it was there just wasn't the right place for it. It seemed like flipping was going to be better with how pressured it was and how hot it was. You know, we really locked down to, you know, mainly 2 baits actually. The Ned head and the, you know, flipping the creature bait. We did catch them on other things, but those were probably the real key ones. So anyway, but let the fish, we tried all kinds of stuff. And we tried shallow, deep, you know, and we messed around quite a bit. but let the fish tell you what to do. And then, you know, with the wind picking up, we could have stayed out on the main lake and probably caught some more, but it just seemed like the wind was picking up. It wasn't working so well that I didn't, you know, I wouldn't mind trying something else. And I enjoy flipping grass. And I figured probably we wouldn't get a lot of bites, but the bites we get would be good ones, and that was correct. So if I was, you know, fishing a tournament or doing something else, I would make the same choice to go in that shallow grass. It worked, it paid off, and we filled a limit, and we had pretty good weight for the end of the day. All right, guys, that's a wrap. So glad to take you out on the water. Excited to bring you on the water here real soon. And hopefully we're going to have one of those days where it's just a slugfest and we are just ripping lips and catching fish left and right. But it is summertime, and sometimes that just doesn't happen. Stick with it. Slow down. Be patient. Catch those fish. Have a good day. Learn as much as you can. And I'll see you real soon. Okay. Check that out. Didn't even know my own strength. Trying to cut a hook off, and all I do is snap the handle off the dikes. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. What do you do? Pathetic. I think that has more to do with the weakness of the dikes than the strength of my muscles. Oh well.